I'm Tiff Rolfe, Global Chief Creative Officer at RGA, and just going to talk a little bit about creativity. Ideas alone aren't enough. They need to be made. It can be challenging to come up with an idea that nails that brief and perfectly brings everything together in a way that answers what the clients need and what customers will connect with. But I think even harder, the harder job is to get that from an idea into something real in the world. It takes so much more than just an idea in your brain, right? It takes action and cooperation, and it takes continual problem solving to keep those ideas alive and get them into the world. I truly do believe creativity is everyone's job. I've had a little bit of a love-hate relationship with the term creative, mostly as a label for a person when it's a creative, like the sole responsibility of creativity resides in this one person, which I think one is a lot of pressure, but I think it also potentially strips out some of the creative from the process, and the whole journey of what we do as creative industry. And I think, I like to prefer it more as an act of being creative. It should be something that everyone can tap into. Pretty much every idea I've been a part of, could have died 100 times over along the whole journey. And creativity isn't, the end isn't with the idea. It is about using that creativity to help solve all those challenges along the way. One way I think to really think about that and approach those challenges is to ask, what if? It starts with the idea, but it's also a useful question, as constraints come your way. We can't do it in time. Well, what if we did it this way? Could we do it in time then? We can't use this tech. Well, what if we use this tech? We can't say that legally, which happens a lot with the lawyers. Well, what if we said this instead? So those challenges and hurdles come your way, and they can potentially destroy an idea. It's our job to ensure that the things that are most important for that creative idea stay intact. But I think it's also these challenges that can strengthen and lead you to even better solutions. Most creative people aren't good by just sitting down with a blank slate and having endless space to be able to do anything, literally anything. We need a goal, we need a problem. That's actually called a brief. Brief is a constraint. And I think some people think that constraints are a bad thing, it can squeeze the idea if there's too many of them, but I think if you embrace that as part of the creative process, that is part of your creativity, is solving these challenges, these different constraints that come your way, bounce back like a bouncy clown every time you're punched. I think you can start to even get to better work and even enjoy that that's part of the process. That is creativity, to continually solve. Ideas happen at intersections of point of views, of thinking, of backgrounds, and even creativity inside your brain doesn't work that way. It isn't existing in one space. It exists across many different parts of your brain that all kind of connect and work together to unlock something. And this is how it happens, with teams and with other people as well, looking at ideas and work through different lenses, those challenges through different lenses. It can be challenging. Crashes also happen at intersections. So while it isn't easy, I do think really bringing these different perspectives and thinking together, taking those in, really listening to those, letting them question your own sensibilities is how you get to something totally new. I do think that creativity has never really been a 9 to 5. It's always been hard to put creative ideas on a schedule. You can't necessarily plan when inspiration and ideas form. While we can get briefed and we start and we get that challenge that comes our way and we're thinking about it hard and we want to solve it, it never really happens, when we want it to, right? When we're staring at that blank screen, hoping for the idea to happen before, the next meeting. It sparks in the shower, in the middle of the night, even when you start to make it. Sometimes it can feel like it happens anytime, but when you're working, and that's just how our brains work as well. So, taking all these in, thinking them through, it's the spontaneous kind of connections that are made that help us get to some of those ideas. And I think in this new way of working, we can actually thrive. Creativity can thrive rather than, feel hindered. I think we all want to come back together and we need times to collaborate with real people. But I do think this last year and a half, just the reset and the shift and the new perspectives that it gave a lot of us led to some really amazing creative thinking. You know, we had to think on our toes. We had to not run things through so much process. You know, we were working differently with family around, and the kinds of ideas we came up with were really different. And for us, at least, it led to some of our best creative projects in years. And so I think that, you know, just shaking things up in the way we think and behave is helpful to creativity. And so how do we continually kind of, without a pandemic, how do we reset the way we work and the way we create? It's really important that, you know, we as creative people are creating responsibly. You know, the role that we can play, our job is to create on behalf of brands, help them connect and create with people. You know, this isn't about personal expression. So I think removing some of the ego and kind of personal interest in what we do as creative people is especially important. You know, how are we leading with empathy and looking at ideas through different lenses? So to ensure there's different perspectives captured, there's no bias, there's, you know, we're creating in service of people in the right way. And what I don't mean, and I think that this can sometimes be confused, is like that everything has to be safe. You know, I think we need ideas that make people uncomfortable still. You know, the best ideas have tension. You know, they do push you to think differently. They can position against an enemy, but not, I think, at the expense of people and greater society. You know, and so how are we looking at what we do with all the power that can have, and using our creativity to make people feel and to make things better. So that's just a couple of thoughts for me on creativity. So in summary, ideas aren't enough. You got to make them, you got to implement them. Creativity is everyone's job. So how do we allow everyone in this creative process and help us get more of our great creative ideas made? How are we always asking what if, pushing to solve all the challenges that come our way? Ideas happen at intersections. So how are we letting in those different perspectives to lead to something even greater? And in this new way of working, how do we ensure that this not so 9 to 5 empowers our creativity even more, and that everything we do, we're creating in a responsible way? Thank you.